Welcome to This Week in Hearing. My name is Amin Amlani, and I have the privilege of serving as your host. Since we began this video webcast series a few months ago, This Week in Hearing has brought viewers information from a vast array of areas, such as technology updates, innovation updates, service delivery considerations, changing market dynamics, and legislative issues. We continue this trend of showcasing innovations that are entering the hearing care space. Today, I have the privilege of having discussions with Sahil Diwan and Jackie Phillips of SafKan Health. SafKan Health offers a novel and revolutionary hearing care product for removing earwax. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So Sahil, why don't we start with you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty much the beginning of my career, so not too much to tell here. But my name is Sahil Diwan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of SafKan Health. I started the company with my brother a few years ago. He's a biomedical engineer who's actually had this problem for a long time of just developing too much wax. We'll dive into that a little bit further down. But yeah, the history of the company so far is that we started the company around 2017. We've raised venture capital. We've had successful clinical trials. We've set up our manufacturing. We've already secured patents on the device also. And we recently received our FDA 510(k) clearance. We're actually the only ear cleaning product in the world to have that clearance. And Jackie actually recently joined the company just a few weeks ago. And since she joined us, we actually sold out a product in the first 3 weeks. So it's been a pretty crazy initial launch, but everything's looking really exciting.
Yeah. No, it's been a fantastic product from what I've been able to see. And you've hired one of the best in Jackie. So I know Jackie well, but maybe the audience doesn't. So Jackie, would you introduce yourself if you wouldn't mind?
Yes, absolutely. Again, I want to say thank you for having us. Very excited to be here, but I am Jackie Phillips. I am the VP of Sales at SafKan Health. I am, as Sahil said, I am new to the team, but I'm not new to the industry. I have over 20 plus years in the hearing industry, starting off working in the clinic. I am an audiologist. I worked in a large ENT clinic for several years, and then transitioning into the hearing aid manufacturing side, and then most recently leaving a audiology diagnostic clinical equipment company, and then now recently starting with SafKan Health. So I feel like I've been very fortunate to be able to see many sides of the industry, and I am very excited to start this new adventure with SafKan Health.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And you're a fellow Texan too, so that makes it even that much better. I know you're from Washington, Sahil, but we won't hold that against you if that's okay.
Yeah, no, I love Texas. I think we have kind of the perfect pair. We're based in Seattle, but now also in Houston with Jackie.
That's fantastic. And like I said, you hired one of the best. She's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
So let's dive into this product here just a little bit. So you've developed this product that helps mitigate issues with earwax. So can you start out, if you wouldn't mind, talking about what were some of the drivers or the inspiration for developing this product that you call the Otoset?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a pretty funny story. So my brother growing up, who is a biomedical engineer today, would have to go to a physician every few months to get his ears syringed out. Honestly, growing up, we just thought he kind of was this weird kid with too much earwax, but it turned out that this is a problem that affected millions and millions of people. So fast forward a few decades, and he studies biomedical engineering at the University of Arizona. And actually, while he was still an undergrad, he had come up with the idea for a device that essentially marries the irrigation type procedure you might see typically in a primary care setting with what an ENT surgeon does with microsuction, and marrying those two methods into a device that's fully automated, wearable, standardizes the best practices of the procedure, and really takes the guesswork and a lot of the risk out of the manual ear syringing or microsuction type procedures that you see today. So this is the device right here. As I said, we recently launched the product last month in Dallas at an event that actually we met you at, and ever since then, it's just been kind of crazy. So we've deployed all the devices that we have at this point, and very much focused on collecting product feedback from our early adopters.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And it just goes to show you, you've got an issue and you see these solutions, but these solutions just aren't maybe the best in terms of efficiencies and feasibilities. And you come up with a solution, which is what makes this product so novel and innovative. And I can talk about this a little bit later on, but I actually got to try the device and just thought the world of it, because I struggle with earwax as well, probably not as much as your brother does, but I do struggle with it and found this thing to be really, really cool. So Jackie, as clinicians, you and I have been in the clinic, and we have patients that come in with impacted wax, and we can't then perform the services that we need. How does this product help alleviate or reduce the constraints on the service delivery of the clinic?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great question. So, currently, first of all, I had no idea. I've been out of clinic for a few years, and I had no idea how many millions of Americans are struggling with this, wax impaction. And so, I was spoiled. I was working in the ENT clinic, so really great with Corette, but if I got an impacted ear coming in, I would just walk them down to the ENT. So I was spoiled. I didn't realize how much of it, for most clinicians, this is such a hindrance to have impaction and have to refer out their patients to an ENT clinic and hope and pray that they come back to their clinic. So, this is the number one leading reason for conductive hearing loss. And also, I shouldn't have been so surprised, because when the number one reason I would send hearing aids to the manufacturer for repair was due to clogged receivers with wax. So it is a cumbersome process in the clinic for the clinicians, because they come in and the patients are very upset because they throw their hearing aids down and complain about the hearing aids. But when we look into the receiver, it's clogged with wax. Yeah. And so they've got upset patients here, and then you're going to have to take the hearing aid away from them for a week or two to send in for repair. And so you have this whole bad cycle of just upset patients regarding the hearing aid repair, or the patients not being able to hear because they were impacted with wax. So it is a major problem, and a problem in the clinic currently for many clinicians.
Yeah, it affects about 1 in 10 children, 1 in 20 healthy adults, and 1 in 3 people over the age of 65. So that translates to roughly 35 million Americans and 700 million people around the world. So my brother is certainly not an outlier like we thought he may have been growing up. A much bigger problem than I think most people recognize.
Yeah.
And another thing too is, yesterday I just learned from a audiologist in an ENT practice that right now their clinic is a month out to get these patients for the ENT to actually clean their ears. So they want the Otoset because they're going to start doing the ear cleaning in the audiology clinic and not the ENT side, because it's a month wait for a patient to get their ears clean.
And that's interesting, because if you look at the service delivery model that we have, it's an inefficient model, because we have people that have to wait in order to get their hearing aids fit appropriately. They've got to come in 3, 4, 5 times. If they have earwax, we need to send them away and then bring them back. And so in this particular case, or in this, at least this part of the service delivery model, you are now helping that process to become more efficient. That then lets the provider do the things that he or she needs to do to get that patient rolling and moving in the right direction as it relates to getting their hearing issues resolved.
Absolutely. Our goal is to create greater access to care for this procedure with this device.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. So as we're talking about this, let's talk about how this Otoset works. So people are probably going, well, you've got this product, we see these inefficiencies, we see how it might help, but what does it do and how does it function?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, it really is kind of this marriage of the irrigation type procedure, which you typically do with a syringe or a spray bottle. Some providers will actually use a water pick, like the dental flossing device, to perform the procedure today. Certainly not what it was meant for, but that's, just kind of shows the lack of tools that people have today, providers and consumers, to deal with this problem. And then also on the other side, we have that microsuction that pretty much only ENTs are doing. You do see quite a few audiologists using it, which is great, but for the most part, that takes quite a bit of training and something that mostly ENT surgeons are only doing. So what we did here is essentially what we did is, again, marrying those two things into this. So how this device actually works is you fill this top container up with body temperature water. You then attach these ear tips and waste containers to the device. And the waste container is actually how we create negative pressure in the device, and that's how we get our microsuction. And then here, a little bit hard to see here, but we do have the ear tip, which has 2 channels. The top channel is for irrigation, so that's where the water comes out and sprays into the ear towards the walls of the canal, which is really important to break down that wax no matter where it is. And then we have continuous microsuction from this bottom half of the ear tip, which then collects all of that waste into this bottom waste container for a really quick and mess-free procedure. So one cleaning cycle just takes 35 seconds. For severe impactions, you might have to run it 2 or 3 times, but that's still an incredibly fast procedure. And for anybody interested, there's a demo video on our website that really clearly shows how the device works.
Yeah, and we'll try to include as much of that video as we can here so that folks have access, but we'll also be sure to include your website so that they have access to that content as well that we may not be able to get on this webcast. It's incredible how you guys were able to think about this. So now you've created it. What's the evidence to support this product? I mean, is it just something that you guys put together, working in a garage somewhere and now you're coming to market, or is there some science behind this and some validity behind it?
It was kind of like that, honestly, in the early days when we started the company. So back in like 2017, I was basically sleeping like on a air mattress in my brother's college apartment, and we'd build prototypes with our engineering team, and we were 3D printing everything, which was really cool. So the initial versions of the devices, we must have gone through 20 different versions, all 3D printed. We actually did clinical trials with 3D printed devices too. So yeah, we used a lot of what we had, essentially kind of tried to figure it out more of like a software company where they move quickly on designs and iterate and just keep going. And 3D printing really allowed us to do that. So that's how we actually did the R&D for the product. But when it comes to our clinical results, so we're very focused on clinical data and clinical support from clinicians. So we have investors that are healthcare systems. We have physicians who helped us actually develop, iterate, test the device. And we are the only 510K cleared ear cleaning product in the world. So that means that the FDA actually looked at our clinical data. They looked at our cleaning validation. It's a 1,000-page document that you actually have to send to the FDA. And then you go through a round of questions. It's usually a process that takes many years and millions of dollars to do. So we went through that entire process. It definitely helped us build a better product, though it did take a lot of time. And actually, one thing that we're doing now that's really cool is that we're going to soon be coming out with a large publishable study with a healthcare system partner. Again, just very focused on providing clinical data, showing that this can and should be the new standard of care.
Yeah. So 2 questions come to mind just for our viewership. This is only for adults at this point in time.
That's correct. Yes, we actually are developing both pediatric and consumer versions, which we can talk about a little bit later, but this current device is meant for adult use.
Okay. And then the second thing that comes to mind is, what are the contraindications to use? Because I remember when I went through the Cerumen management program, and this was almost 30 years ago now, if you, and we used to use an irrigator, if you got the water too hot or too cold, you'd make people dizzy and,
Right.
all those kinds of things. So can you tell us a little bit about the contraindications and how you lessened or removed some of those in your product?
Yeah. So in future versions, actually in our next version, we're going to be putting a temperature sensor in it. So that will really help with people who aren't performing irrigation procedures today and aren't used to the body temperature water. But yeah, it's, very clearly you need to use body temperature water so the patient doesn't get dizzy. But other than that, you shouldn't use this device on somebody who has perforated eardrums, ear tubes, or an ear infection. But other than that, this device is proven to be safe and effective.
Yeah. So just basic common sense in the clinic is Jackie, you and I were trained to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so now that you have this product, you've developed it, you know what the contraindications are. It looks like you've got some data that's coming out to support it. The next question, at least in my mind, is what markets are a really good place for utilization?
Well, that's a good question. The first market, when I first got recruited for this company and come over, we talked about the channels we wanted to focus on. And the first one that comes to my mind is obviously audiology. Coming from that industry, I know what clinicians use. I told the team that honestly, we are very good with carettes, but with microsection or irrigation is really not something you'll find in many audiology clinics. Yeah. And so I really felt like this was an area, a channel that's been underserved for this product or this service. They've been using currently, they do use irrigation. They're using it with a basin and a syringe, and it's very messy and it's cumbersome and the patient has to interact with that. But this device, when I saw how innovative it was and how easy it is to use, I instantly said the audiology market is the first one we should go and work with. And then eventually, once we are, more established and really working more in the audiology industry, expanding out to general practitioners, because again, they do not have the tools or proper tools or maybe training on actually impacted wax for their patients. And so they're all channels are referring into the ENTs. And as I discussed earlier, an ENT is making patients wait over a month to come get for impaction. So it's really getting too heavy for the ENT market. So the channels that we really should focus on is the first one is audiology. Obviously, that's the best one to start with. And then expanding to primary care and maybe urgent care, et cetera. And then some ENTs is obviously they need help having something that's a lot faster and not as messy and a safer procedure than what they're currently using.
Yeah, you made some great points there. And from our ENT advisors, they certainly didn't become surgeons to be cleaning out so much wax. It's actually one of the highest volume procedures that ENTs perform today. And that really does come down to primary care physicians and audiologists not having the tools to safely and effectively perform the procedure. So the goal here again is pushing this procedure into that first setting where the patient is going, not having to refer them out, and then doing it also in a lower acuity setting. So for healthcare systems, they really care about being able to perform procedures like this in more of an urgent care or retail clinic type setting, which is, again, even better for the patient.
Yeah.
And currently we do have, we are in mostly audiology clinics, but we do have 2 ENT sites that are currently using it. And then we also have some primary care physicians using it. So our main focus is audiology, but we are not forgetting about the other channels because we do want to get feedback from all different areas because each one has a different need and a different type of client and different type of setting.
Yeah, that's the way to do it in my opinion is to get it out to these different channels, see what if you had a Venn diagram, see what overlaps and what doesn't, and then that will give you potentially some ideas on segmentation and some things that you might look at down the road. And one of the things that comes up in my mind as we look at segmentation is it almost seems like there's maybe a small group of individual patients who could self-use this product. Am I right?
Yeah, so that's actually the vision for the company. So we are first starting with the pair of headphones that you see that is meant to be used by a healthcare professional in a healthcare setting. It's meant to remove severe impactions, right? So that's something that you're going to go into and get done by a healthcare professional. Our next step for the company are 2 different products. Number one, a pediatric version of it. We actually were recently accepted into this program that's funded by the FDA for pediatric device innovation. They focus on big problems that children have. And again, 1 in 10 children are affected by this. And if it's the leading cause of conductive hearing loss, that obviously affects the way they learn and everything like that. So starting with the pediatric version next, and then after that, we'll be doing a consumer version. So the consumer version is going to be quite different from the product we have today. You can think of the product we have today being used by healthcare professionals to be treating patients with severe impactions, whereas a consumer version is meant to be a preventative version. So it would be the first FDA cleared consumer device, the first physician recommended device for home use to allow those 35 million Americans who have this issue, like my brother, to prevent the issue from the first place at home, especially for hearing aid users. I think, there's a huge opportunity there to actually work with audiologists to sell this consumer version to people with hearing aids so they can take better care of those hearing aids and don't have to be, having to ship those in for repair and having weeks of amount of time not having their hearing aids.
Yeah, and I could also see this as you're talking about the patient side of this. I could also see this in the market where people always have these earbuds and things in their ears as well, where the wax doesn't have the opportunity to migrate its way out. And so if you can use it in a preventative kind of way, I think that's really, really cool as well. I've got 3 teenagers. Well, I've got 1 young adult and 2 teenagers at home with things in these ears. And I have one, my daughter in particular, who would really benefit from something like this because she's got small, narrow ear canals. Yeah. She's got those AirPods in her ears all day long. And then we have to go out and get those things removed. And to Jackie's point, we've had to wait a couple of weeks in order to get in. Not like it's life or death and that she needs a hearing aid, but it's uncomfortable. She has a hard time hearing, especially if she's sitting in the back of a classroom. So I can see how this particular product would help alleviate some of those day-to-day issues. So it's, like I said, it's a really novel and revolutionary program that has a lot of unmet needs in this particular marketplace.
Yeah, our vision is to, again, start with a clinical product, then go consumer, and work with clinicians to go consumer, by the way. And our goal is to do for ears what Sonicare did for teeth.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm going to change the dialogue here a little bit because, we've concentrated on the product and what it does. But to me, the product also has a flip side to it. And to me, this is the most important piece, and that's the service component.
Right.
And so as we're looking at the service component of this, Jackie, let's talk about how this product could be marketed as a service for these different channels that you're talking about.
Absolutely, especially in audiology. It's, I've visited with a lot of audiologists the past few weeks, and there's a lot of people who don't really, they send everybody out for referral. So this actually can be an extra revenue source for many clinicians who are having to refer out, because it's not intimidating. That's another thing, is a lot of clinicians say, well, I do cleaning, but the rest of my staff does not do cleaning because they're so nervous, or, it's very intimidating with the equipment that we do have. So they see this as a very inviting product for clinicians to use, because it's just a click of one button. It's nothing else to do. This one person is, a lot of the things that they're using now, they're saying it's a 2-person procedure, and they're having to pull another person out from their job. So you've got 2 people trying to do a procedure. With this procedure, it could be a healthcare professional, or it could be an audiology assistant, a health tech in the clinic. So you can train someone else in the clinic to perform this procedure, because it's a classification 1. So if that person is able, under their scope, to look in a patient's ear with the otoscope, they can actually clean a patient's ear with the Otoset as well. So they can look in the patient's ear. Oh, I have wax, put the Otoset on, press the button, and in 35 seconds, they're done. So our philosophy is that, or our saying is, it's 5 minutes or less from start to finish with a cleaning of a patient's ear. So, and currently they're saying it's 20 to 30 minutes. They're getting prep time, getting the patient ready, and then perform the procedure. So look how much time we're cutting down. So if we can have less chair time for the patient, for the clinician, and that means they can see more patients instead of having to fill up their schedule with ear cleanings, and it take up to 30 minutes sometimes. Imagine having only 5 minutes in your schedule, and imagining it's not the healthcare professional, it's the technician or the assistant doing this job. So think of how many more people that we can actually bring into the clinic, perform this procedure, and open up the schedule for the hearing care professional to see other patients that they really need to see more frequently.
Yeah, and as you're talking, the other thing that's going through my mind, Jackie, is now it becomes a one-stop shop. You're not sending the person out. So what does that now do to patient-centered care? You've
Absolutely.
now elevated all of that. So I'll leave that with you. I mean, I think it's a fantastic way to enhance that patient journey.
Well, it's actually personalizing the patient's care. So we want to actually enhance that patient's experience, not saying that they're not having a great experience now. We just want to enhance their patient's experience and satisfy the patient more than they already getting from the clinician. But also we want to personalize each experience that a patient has when they come to see this clinician. And Boston Consultant is a great article. I mentioned this in all my talks about personalizing patient care. So anytime you personalize a patient's experience, you can see up to a 10% increase in revenue, because you're personalizing their experience in your practice. And so I can't imagine anyone who would not want to be able to see more patients and also be able to see an increase in revenue up to 10%, because you're personalizing your patients. Like you said, it's a patient-centered focused clinic now. And that's huge for patients. You'll have loyal patients, and you'll have word of mouth of patients saying, you need to go here because I've never experienced anything else like this. So absolutely.
Yeah. And what you just said is really interesting, because now you've got, this is patient-centered care. You're using the overhead, the other staff members, and it helps them become part of that medical process. But then the other part of this is you're also reducing the costs in your clinic, because you're not having to buy all this other equipment. You've got this product that, is I'm assuming a lot cheaper than all the curettes and the forceps and all those other things that would be needed. And then you've got to clean them, and all the stuff that has to happen afterwards.
Yeah, the return on investment for our device is really quick. For the most part, you should be breaking even and profiting from it in the first month. And we priced it that way because, again, we want to create greater access to care, which actually grows the market. And if you can provide this device to your lowest your lowest cost provider in your lowest acuity setting, that's just going to mean that patients have better access to care. And then on top of that, nobody really likes doing this procedure today. It's messy. It's not fun for the provider or for the patient. So this certainly enhances that experience for both.
It also attracts patients to your clinic. So we also have been seeing that. And I don't know if you remember, but back when the video otoscopes first started coming out, and clinicians would advertise, is it wax or is it your hearing? It's sort of the same thing. Come in to see if it's wax or hearing. And if it is wax, we have a very cool, innovative device that takes less than 5 minutes to clean out your wax problem or impaction that you may have. So it's very much of an attraction for patients to come in. And then also you're retaining your patients because you're not referring them out to any more ENTs. And then lastly, the satisfaction of the patient. Again, we're going back to the experience of the patient, which is why we're here. We want to make sure we always are enhancing the patient's experience, because the happy patients are going to tell their friends and their family to come in to see this clinician because they've had such a great experience. And then on the flip side, for the clinician, less chair time of having to see this patient more and more. One of the things that I'm seeing, which I think is a very clever idea, is having a subscription model for this. So clinicians are offering their patients who come in frequently, why don't we do with the Otoset, we have a subscription model every 3 months, every 6 months, whatever, depending on the impaction frequency, they would come in and pay a yearly fee to come in to have this procedure done on them. So I think that's a very clever way to keep in touch with your patients, and a service that you haven't been offering, but now you can offer to your patients. So a value add service to your patients who will stay loyal to you because you're offering something like this.
Yeah, it's also a big differentiator for early adopters. I think, our early adopters are certainly types of audiologists and primary care physicians that want to differentiate their practices from their competition. And that's important to them. And we've spent time, making a product that looks cool, the branding around it makes it appealing, so that when they do run marketing campaigns within their community and with their current patient base, that they are attracting more patients to come in for this procedure.
Yeah. And then the other thing that you can also promote, as we talked about a little bit earlier, cleaner ears means the hearing aid stays functional longer.
Absolutely.
And because it stays functional longer, it's more like, you don't have to buy one in 3 years. You might have to buy one in 5 years instead. And so that's also, I think, a critical point, because it extends the life of that product. And hearing aids aren't cheap. I mean, they're pretty expensive. So, it's a well-rounded model that allows for the economics for the patient and for the provider. And then it also allows for the inefficiencies, enhances those issues that we've been facing for a number of years. So it's a tremendous thing that you guys have created.
Yeah, I think, I don't wear hearing aids, but I can certainly understand how frustrating it must be to spend thousands of dollars on your hearing aids and then not have them for weeks at a time simply because they got too much wax into them. So, we see both products, our clinical product and our consumer product, helping to solve that problem.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive into something else here. So we've talked about the product, we've talked about the service. Now the education behind this. I mean, do we got to take a class, or what do we got to do in order to understand how this product works? And then I'm also going to tag that on. What are some of the deficiencies, Jackie, that you're seeing as a clinician that providers don't have that this product will help overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. So unfortunately, and I can speak from experience, not all audiology programs have the robust classes in regards to Cerumen management or wax removal. So it's kind of hit and miss. I've really been talking to a lot of educators and a lot of clinicians about their experience in school, and a lot of them tell me they got their experience on site at their first clinic when they graduated. So I didn't really get much of any education in the university, but learned it on site as well. So what at SafKan Health, what we are really focused on is, it's something I'm very passionate about, is education within the universities of this device and Cerumen management. And so I have been contacting universities to discuss having maybe a lunch and learn with the hearing aid class or the Cerumen management class if they have one, and going in and speaking at these universities to discuss the ease and the safety and the quality of this device for their students when they do get out into the real world of practicing. So we are very active in that department and really hope that the universities embrace this and want to have us to come and speak to their students, because we strongly believe it's an answer to something that's been not approached or discussed in the universities very much.
Yeah, I can certainly understand that. And it's not, that follows suits for our other markets too. There's not too much training around Cerumen management in general. With our device though, it really is a very quick, 15-minute training session. The device is incredibly simple to use. It really just has one button. The only part you need to learn is how to actually fit it on a patient's head, which is quite similar to fitting a pair of headphones. It takes, probably 1, 2, 3 patients to just understand using the button, how to fit it properly. And other than that, you're good to go. So we've seen with our early adopters, pretty much all of them having great experiences right off the bat without any additional training. And we'll create more robust training materials as we go forward, but it is something that really just takes 15 minutes or so to learn.
Yeah, that's I think that's an important piece. Is it's pretty simple to use, and because it's simple to use, you do have to have a little bit of training, but it's not, something that takes days or weeks or months in order to learn.
Yeah, the training is more about, how to prep a patient, how to fit it to a patient, and then, how to operate the button. That's really it. How to clean it. But other than that, this is an automated device. So we're taking that manual side of the procedure out of it, which is helping to reduce risk and just creates a more consistent, more efficacious procedure.
It's really nice because it's all contained in the headset as well. So there's nothing outside the headset. And I think that's really the press of the button and everything being right here on the ears is really a differentiator from everything else in the market right now. Nothing else I've ever seen quite like this. So it's quite amazing to use and easy, one touch basically.
Yeah, that's great. So Sahil, you said earlier that you guys have developed this product and you are going to have some future developments as this product continue to evolve. Can you share potentially what some of those developments might be?
Yeah, and that's actually what we're doing with our early adopters. So, the early adopters, it really was kind of first come, first serve. We sold out a product so quickly, which is a great problem to have. And right now, we're very much working with our early adopters on their product feedback. Kind of the main thing that we've been hearing is a temperature sensor for the water is a good thing to add. Certainly something we're going to be adding into the next version of the device. Other than that, we're looking at, for example, like a pretty cool induction charger. So you just put this on the stand and it charges like that rather than having to plug it in. Different ear tip sizes, as we collect more data and treat more patients, and potentially even putting a camera inside of the device. So those are some cool features that we're planning on doing in the future. And then, as I mentioned, we are starting to develop a pediatric version already, along with a consumer version. So all of these devices solve different, they live in different settings, and though they are similar to each other in many ways, they're also quite different in other ways.
And I think that that's really different that stands out from our company is that we listen to our clinicians. They give us feedback and we truly are taking this information they're giving us. It's very crucial information and we're turning around and we're implementing it into the next generation. And since we are a smaller company, we're very agile. We're able to really listen and turn around and react with R&D and engineers very quickly. So that's something I think is very impressive because you don't see that with a lot of companies. A lot of companies are like bigger. It's a big ship. And to get something changed, a feature change could take a really long time. But for us, we're very quick and we're very agile and we're really responsive. And we can't say enough about our early adopters and the great feedback they've been giving us. And so a lot of them are helping us as they're part of our team almost. They're helping us create this next generation that's going to even be better than this generation that's already good. So I'm impressed to be able to offer that to everybody we're working with, that you're going to help design the next generations coming forth. So it's pretty cool. And it's very exciting to be where we are right now.
Yeah, and it's awesome how, our customers are just incredibly busy people. And it's great how they're taking time out of their week to talk to us pretty much every week on anything, any tiny little thing they can think of that they want to see improved, because they know that we will incorporate it. And then in turn, they will actually see and have an even better product going forward. So we're very focused again on clinical data and support from clinicians. I think that again is a differentiator from us from any other product in the market, that we are very much involved with our customers, incorporating their feedback actively, so things only get better and better.
Yeah, that's incredible that you guys are able to do that. Jackie, one of the things that's going to come up is, clinicians might be thinking about the economics behind this. Any thoughts?
Absolutely. Well, I'm watching, and we're watching very closely the Medicare Audiologist Access Service Act that Senator Warren proposed, I think a couple of years ago now. And so we're really watching that closely to see if that act will pass. MASA is what the nickname is. And if it does pass, it will alter the definition of audiology services for Medicare patients. And what that really equates to is that there will be a CPT code for earwax cleaning with Medicare patients going forward. So if that passes, that's a big change, a game changer for many clinicians to be able to open that door and have their own CPT code, that they don't have to refer to a doctor to get a CPT code. Because currently, as I said earlier, patients are having to do self-pay. So patients want to have a one-shot place. So when they get to the point where the clinician says, you really got impaction in your ear, I can send you to an ENT where it'd be covered under, there would be CPT, or there would be a code to pay for that with your insurance or with Medicare, or I can do it, but it'll be a self-pay. And the patients are typically saying, I'll just stay here and pay for it because I don't want to have to leave. So what a great service that will be if that does pass for clinicians to have their own CPT code for this procedure. And as I mentioned earlier, the subscription model is, I think, going to really be a pop. I'm seeing it from more and more clinicians that we're working with, as they're talking about having that subscription for their repeat patients with wax impaction. So I think those are going to be some of the game changers for wax removal going forward.
I think most patients, especially within audiology, are used to self-pay. And as I mentioned earlier, this device pays for itself quite quickly. And we priced it that way because we want people to adopt this device and we want them to use it. And that only grows the market and you're able to treat more patients. So we're very much focused on that. Yeah, and don't really have anything else to add there. But self-pay is how the procedure is done today and how people are seeing that return on investment.
Yeah. Well, you shared a lot with our viewers today, in terms of what this product is, the service, the economics, the education that's behind it. And so as we come to the end of this, are there any final thoughts?
Yeah, you actually were able to try our device. I wanted to see if you were willing to share your experience with the viewers.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So as you pointed out earlier, you guys had come down to Dallas. There was a manufacturer event that they had put on all day and had various companies come in, and you guys were one of them and were able to present. I actually had to come in late because I had to work all day, but during the happy hour period, you guys were kind enough to continue to demo this particular product. And so I sat down in the chair, not knowing what to expect. I did have wax in my ears. And I thought, man, this is fantastic. I don't have to go into the primary care physician or the ENT. And hopefully this will remove what's in particularly, I think it was my left ear at the time. And your brother put the device on, kind of explained to me what was going to happen. And he was dead on. There were no surprises. It wasn't anything that was startling or anything that was overly loud or overbearing or anything. And the water was set just right. So, it was fantastic. I didn't get dizzy or anything. And like you said, less than a minute later, I've got this water in my ear. It's being dried out. And it dried out my ears, I would say, probably about 90%. Mm-hmm. And then you can look in the waste container there and actually see that the wax had been removed. And for me, that was like, oh, great, this is fantastic. I couldn't hear any differently because I don't think it was impacted, but it made me feel better. And I'm like, you know what? This thing is out of my ear now. I'm less likely to have an impaction, if we go a few months down the road, because I've always got earplugs in from having conference calls all day. And I just thought this is a really, really cool and fantastic tool. Where has it been for the last 20 years?
Yeah. I mean, we started the company when I was 25 and 23, so we were too young. So that's why it hadn't happened for a long time. But a funny story actually about the container color. When we had our 3D printed prototypes, we always made them a solid color so you couldn't see the wax afterwards. And when we were doing clinical trials, people really wanted to see the wax that came out. So we ended up going from kind of a cloudy or not clear plastic to a completely clear plastic, which is right here, so people can see what's coming out of their ears. So just a funny thing that kind of influenced the design of the product, just straight from the patient's feedback.
Yeah. And going back to what Jackie said, it's a differentiator because now I can see that the product has actually done something. And then and personally, my satisfaction was higher using the product, knowing that the wax was now out. If it had been hidden or concealed, I might have just said, okay, well, wait a minute, you just put some water in my ear, but where's the proof in the pudding? And, I think that was a smart thing to do, is having those things clear, at least from my perspective. Some people might think it's gross, but I think there's a fair amount of people that would say, hey, I see that you've done something, and I appreciate the fact that we can now move that patient journey along, and we don't have to deal with earwax being an issue.
People are obsessed with earwax. All you got to do is go on YouTube and type in earwax removal, and you'll see how obsessed people are with it. But no, yeah, that's certainly right. And we very much care about the patient experience. And like I said, we're on the first version of the device. It's a great product already. People are really liking it, but very much focused on incorporating our early adopters' feedback and customers going forward, every customer's feedback into the device to make it a better and better experience.
Well, Sahil and Jackie, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you guys on. I know our viewership will absolutely have questions and comments and things. And again, we'll put the website down at the bottom so that they can look at your website if they're interested in this product. I think it's a real game changer. It's really, really cool as we start to see the profession of audiology evolve. And this is one piece of that evolution. And so congratulations to you guys for building a product, getting people on board. And, it's just going to elevate us as we move through the healthcare space in time.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.